Story 1. My kids still speak to me, but not much. I'm better than I was, but I was a terrible parent. Poverty was part of it. Hooking up with the wrong men just to have a little more income or avoid paying for childcare led to bad decisions. I got myself cleaned up, got out of debt, and got rid of the guy who was harassing my boy and acting like our daughter could do no wrong. My parents were atrocious, and I thought I was much better. Actually, I was much better, but I wasn't enough better. It was hard for me to show love because I never experienced it myself. There were times I didn't hear from my boy for years, and honestly, I know I deserved that. I wrote him a long letter, apologized for my faults, and have honestly tried to be better. We have a much better relationship now, and while we are not super close, we have something, and I'm grateful. Story 2. Father to the daughter who cut off contact with her mother, my wife here. Mother is still a narcissist, and she emotionally and mentally abused the kids until they moved out one by one. Mother is also a functioning alcoholic. The daughter moved to a different state and cut off all contact with her mother, vowing to never let her see the grandchildren. Mother spent months raging, trying weak apologies, saying things like, "I'm sorry you're upset, and you need to grow past what happened." And to me, she is stuck in the past. My daughter and I are very close. I FaceTime with the grandchildren regularly and visit on holidays. Edit to add. Thanks, everyone, for your insight and stories. I feel everyone. To answer some questions, why am I still married? My youngest daughter has one more year of college that I'm paying for, and then that will be it. I make significantly more money than my wife and pay for everything. However, my state is a 50-50 state for divorce, and I need that money to get my daughter through college. Up for grabs is my military pension, 401k, individual retirement account, house, and savings. I'm certainly not rich by any means. Cheaper to keep her for now. Why didn't I leave way back then? She wasn't like this all the time. The good times were great, amazing. I hoped that if I could just keep those going, it would all work out. I was foolishly optimistic. I also came from a broken family. My parents divorced when I was young, and I hated that. In my mind, divorce was bad, and I didn't want to inflict that on my kids. Now that I can look back, I realize I should have left much earlier. Too often, it was like walking on eggshells in the house. She might snap at something or get drunk, then come out raging and gaslighting. I was always on edge. That was my norm. Being in the military has taught me to toughen up and do my job, so that's what I did at home. But toughening up meant keeping my emotions to myself, burying them away, putting on a strong face. We'd argue and fight. She'd cry and yell. I could never get her to change. People in abusive relationships get into a certain mindset. Have you ever heard a cabinet slam too hard? Ever had clothes thrown at you? Heard dishes put in the sink a little too loudly? You're suddenly on high alert, on the lookout for anything coming your way, waiting for the steps down the hall and your door to fly open. It's a terrible way to live. I should have made many different decisions, been stronger, and gotten help earlier. Maybe being always in survival mode doesn't let you think about those things. I regret many things and will always carry that with me. But now I look to the future and the happy times I'll have with my kids and grandkids. I want to be the dad and grandpa I never had. Thanks for reading this far. I'd love to give you all a big dad hug because you are worth it, and you deserve it. Take care. Story 3. Not me, but I was on a Facebook group a few weeks back where this older woman in her 60s claimed to be estranged from her kids, and she didn't know why. She assumed that the kids were hard to deal with and she did her best, but no matter what, they were always out to get her or felt that she was being aggressive. When someone made a comment or suggestion saying that the way she phrases things may contribute to it based on how she spoke, this woman flipped out on the person who commented. When I followed by saying if that's how she speaks to them, then I can see why they may feel that way, she flipped out on me, saying I don't know her story and that she was the nicest person she ever knew. Some people just genuinely don't have the mental capacity to learn how to grow. Story 4. 2 of my 3 children don't talk to me. I stayed with their abusive father, and they hate me for not protecting them by leaving. There's so much more to this, but that's what it all boils down to. It was, of course, unintentional, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I took a lot from him to protect them, but if I could go back, I'd love myself enough to show them what a strong mother looks like and get us all out. That would have been the right way to protect them. Story 5. My daughter and I were estranged for 18 months. It was hell. It was also all my fault. I had crossed a boundary, and God bless her. She called me on it and told me to go away. I was incensed. How dare she? Well, she dared because she was right, and I had to go introspective and work on myself. She reached out 18 months later, and we have been in touch now and have a solid relationship. It is a communicative relationship, understanding, and just being compassionate to each other. Story 6. My father recently died with 2/5 of his kids speaking to him. Both of those two had considered cutting contact. I had a few email exchanges with him before he died to discuss why he had never met my daughter. He made excuses for what he could and denied the rest. He couldn't live with his actions, I think. Anyway, he told everyone that all his kids were just mentally ill and it wasn't his fault. I think he honestly believed it. Then he ended up stealing 5/6 of the money my mom had left to us kids, with him as trustee, and gave it to his second wife. Guy was a prince. Story 7. I know a family very well, and the daughter's boyfriend molested the granddaughter. The mom actually walked in on it, called the police, and he was arrested. The next day, after he called begging and crying, the mom forced the daughter to recant, and he returned home. The grandmother stepped in and made sure the pedophile was held accountable. The state got tired of the grandmother hounding them, and at an emergency court hearing, the mother was given an ultimatum: leave him or lose her 3 kids. Thankfully, she chose her kids. But the daughter blamed her mother for ruining her marriage and still doesn't speak to her mother 20 years later. But the grandmother doesn't care as long as she helped save her granddaughter from years of abuse. Story 8. My mom and I stopped talking for a 14-year stretch. When my son was very little, we were on vacation with my mother. My wife and I had a small disagreement about his breakfast, and afterwards, my mother pulled me aside and said I should take my son with me to a hotel for a few days to teach my wife a lesson. I disagreed, telling her that I didn't feel that I should be taking marital advice from a woman who had been divorced 3 times. She didn't take it as well as you might think. We finally started talking again when my grandmother passed away and have been fine ever since. Story 9. Sad daughter here scanning to see if by some miracle her parents show up in the comments. Edit: since this post has gotten so much attention, I actually feel this more about my dad and sister than my mom, but I thought you all might enjoy one of my favorite quotes from a movie about what it's like to have a tricky family or a family that feels unpleasable. This is from I, Tanya. Mother, I made you a champion, knowing you'd hate me for it. That's the sacrifice a mother makes. Tanya, you cursed me. Story 10. May I? I grew up an orphan during the Great Depression, and there was no way in hell that my kids would have an easier life than me. I would do everything in my power to recreate my joyless, deprivation-filled childhood for them, so that they would know firsthand what I went through. I would offer no emotional or financial support, because I had none. I would crush any interests they had and sabotage their every action with the ferocity of Genghis Khan. I would do things to them that in today's world would be on the news. I would put on a cheerful and friendly face to the outside world and immediately revert to my evil self at home. I never tired of raging and shrieking. I would be completely shameless at all times. I thought nothing of living a life of deceit, yet painted myself as a devout religious person. I lived a life of agonizing pain, never had a moment of love, laughter, peace, or safety, never knew where my next meal was coming from. So was it really so awful that I continued that tradition with my own kids? I skipped her funeral. Story 11. My daughter doesn't talk to me as much anymore. She moved out when she was 22. I had psychosis episodes for 5 years all of a sudden with no history of mental illness like that, just the usual anxiety and depression. After she had severe mental issues dealing with the aftermath of a tragedy, I developed mental issues and had to be hospitalized for suicide attempts. It traumatized her. I understand why she pulled away, even if it was for something I couldn't help, and I don't blame her. My last attempt was in November, so I hope with time we will be able to be close again. I text her every few days to tell her that I love her, and she responds in kind. We text about life a few times every few months, but we used to be best friends before the tragedy that upended her life and then mine. It altered the course of our lives. Story 12. My mother literally couldn't tell you. I don't mean she doesn't know, I've told her, but she's clinically delusional, an actual narcissist. Straight up rewriting memories as they happen to the point she thinks we're plotting against her when we agree and she doesn't. She claims my partner is why. She told my family I was on drugs. Ironic, since she's on just about everything and can't see our youngest brother without supervision anymore. I don't know what she did for that, but due to my own childhood, I can guess, and it's not good. Story 13. My parents are too old for Reddit. I became estranged from them because they never, ever wanted me. My mother didn't want kids, but in that day, that wasn't an option. They had my sister first and sort of used up their love on her. When I came along 5 years later, they didn't have anything left. I didn't find out until I was 35 that it wasn't anything I did. My mother just really didn't want kids. By then, though, I'd internalized close to 4 decades of being unwanted. I am terrified of being abandoned and have had a lot of therapy. My parents were never abusive. We had food on the table and clothes on our backs. I had My Little Ponies and Shiare figures. I also attempted suicide for the first time when I was 11 years old. I started drinking when I was 15. My parents did not notice. They told me I was the independent one, so I didn't need their love. We also were not a demonstrative family. My family did not hug or kiss or touch in any way. I think I have hugged my parents maybe 10 times or so. Both parents are quite smart, and there was always a kind of judgment about people who couldn't use their words and had to use their bodies instead. Like only poor or stupid people hug their kids. I could go through a list of what they did for my sister versus me, but it's pointless. I would be accused of exaggeration or making things up. We were only nominally raised in the same household. Her life had a very, very different trajectory. Suffice it to say that it wasn't just the love that my sister used up. Time, money, effort, ideas, conversation. I got none of those things. If it matters, I don't blame my sister. We still talk. It wasn't her fault. Story 14. Father of 3 adult daughters here. I'll give the situation as it exists now, then try to explain how and why it got there. The oldest had completely cut me out of her life. We were always distant, even when she was younger, but it got much worse as she got into her 20s. We didn't speak for years. She is now 33, and we occasionally message when she initiates the conversation. The coldness has thawed some, but it is still delicate. The middle daughter is my carbon copy, and we had a good relationship when she was younger. When she hit her late teens, we drifted apart. Now she is 28 with 4 kids, only the oldest of whom I've ever met. I'm not allowed to see the others. We rarely, if ever, message each other. The youngest daughter treated me like I walked on water until just a couple of years ago. Recently, just a week or so ago, she informed me she no longer wants any contact with me. As for the how and why part, I was raised in a single-parent home. My mother did her best to provide for our needs, but she was cold and distant. No hugs. Any event in school, I was automatically blamed before she had any details. If it was proven I was innocent, she would brush off her previous accusation by claiming she was sure I probably did something anyway. There's a lot more I can add here, some of it too sensitive to share even on an anonymous board. I hated the way she was and vowed I would do things differently if and when I had children. Well, I had children. While I did attempt to change my behaviors from what I'd experienced, I slowly added my own ingredients to this situation. Essentially, I ran our home as a military installation. My girls were quickly and harshly disciplined for even the most minor offenses. While there were occasional spankings when they were little, the discipline evolved into very binary rules. For instance, you are expected to get this minimum score on a test at school, or you can't go to your friend's house on the weekend. You didn't make that grade, you were not going. If you cried and begged and pleaded, you were still not going, but now I would restrict or remove some other thing you wanted for not accepting your fate. And so on. When they did things that were good, I would more or less dismiss this as me not rewarding them for what they should have done anyway. Basically, they couldn't win. I believed at the time that I was building strong girls into strong women. Feels as though I've done the exact opposite. On the rare occasions I do hear from them and the subject of the past comes up, this is very rare. I get the "I don't hate you, but I don't want you in my life" speech. It's deserved, but that doesn't lessen the sting. My hope for the future is, as they grow older, time passing will allow them to be more comfortable around me. As they are all adults now, my desire to control them as I did when they were kids is gone. I simply want an adult child/parent relationship. I guess I haven't earned that right, but I still hope for it one day. This comment is late in this post's life, so it probably doesn't really get seen. Nevertheless, it has been cathartic to type it out.